This fork video is different than the typical how-to video, as it documents three main areas. 1. Rebuilding my forks with progressive fork springs. 2. The basics of fork theory with an emphasis on the problem of stiction. 3. The results I got by upgrading components while addressing the alignment issues which were causing stiction. Are you ready to get started? This is an update. It's now June 2009. And basically 2 years and 6,000 miles after these repairs, things continue to run and work perfectly with no leaks or problems. Special thanks to Derek Capito from Motolab and Dwayne Osherman. This project started out as a simple fork seal replacement, but it became much more than that after talking to Derek because he emphasized how important it was to have proper fork alignment. But I didn't fully understand what he had told me over the phone until I went to Dwayne's site and saw the excellent diagrams. I put that into practice on my bike, and I got some amazing results. I replaced my badly rusted upper fork tubes with forks by Frank. They worked great, except I find they are more prone to rust, so I highly recommend using fork boots like Dayco for an off-road vehicle. I don't recommend using fork gaiters because they're too thick on the K75s and difficult to work with. I forgot to mention in the video that the split in the bushing should be facing either 3 o'clock or 9 o'clock. The progressive fork springs provide a good ride and decent handling. The quality on the Frank's forks are good, even though they do look a little different than the OEM fork tubes. Fork theory, there's basically three problems forks can have. One is that they're not parallel, but they're in the same plane. 2, they're parallel, but they're not in the same plane. And 3 is there's a length difference. One fork is down, or there's just something damaged about it. But normally what happens is people look at their upper triple clamp and they say, well, the two tubes are exactly aligned, so I know they got to be level. But the problem is, if the upper triple clamp is tilted like that, then one of these forks will be down a little bit below the other one. I first came across the term axle test on Dwayne's website. Basically, if you have trouble sliding your axle in or out, there's a very good chance you have an alignment problem. My motorcycle is now 17 years old, and the motorcycles Dwayne talks about on his website are even older than that. You might fairly ask the question, is this information still relevant? The answer I found surprisingly was yes. Go ahead and Google in quotes, high-speed wobble, or low-speed wobble, followed by the word BMW, and you'll find lots of cases of people right up to the present time having an unexplained wobble, especially when they take their hands off the handlebars, and sometimes even with their hands on. When it comes to the solution, people have all the wrong enemies. They try changing the tire, or getting the tire rebalanced, or trying a different brand of tire, or adding grease to the steering bearings, or replacing the steering bearings. But guess what? The problem never goes away. What they fail to do is simply apply the methods talked about on Dwayne's website or in this video. They don't try the axle test or even know about it. Hopefully this video will shed some light on a long-standing problem, not only with BMW, but other brands as well. At best, stiction and fork misalignment make your bike ride harshly over bumps. At worst, it can lead to severe high-speed wobbles that can be downright dangerous. There's no reason to put up with this, because most of the time with some shims, some time and effort, this can be easily and permanently remedied. If you want to improve fork responsiveness, start with 5-weight oil. If you want to improve ride quality, reduce the amount of oil until the forks bottom out, then gradually add a little bit until it stops. Remember, never overfill your forks with oil. Why not swing by my website at wecandobetter.com, where I've got lots of great videos like this and high-resolution digital pictures of many different repairs on the K75. For more detailed and accurate information, point your browser to w6rec.com, followed by the rest of the address on the screen. Had enough classroom time and theory talk yet? Okay, grab your wrenches, let's step into the lab and get to work. Label both the right and left fork. This is as you're sitting on the bike from the driver's perspective. This is important because you might end up in a situation where you need to disassemble both fork tubes at the same time. Notice the hex bolt in the center. We've got our drain plug with the famous crush washer. These fork tubes are rusted and pitted, and that means they either have to be thrown away or they would have to be professionally recoated. These tubes are $250 for the pair from Forks by Frank. This is the best way to verify what forks you have. Showa is stamped into these forks. Never assume that because it's a certain date, it must be Showa or Fichtel Sachs. 1992 BMW K75s is a transition year, which meant it shipped with both Fichtel Sachs and then Showa forks. In addition to the stamp, you'll find the upper tube on the Showa forks measures 1.612 inches. Fichtel Sachs forks measure 1.627 inches. If we move this, the whole thing moves. So what we need to do is put a wrench on there and hold that and loosen. I use 2 picks here, which you can get at any auto store, clip or whatever, and I was able to bring it out. Once you get under it like this, you're able to bring it out. With the other clip, I got under there and just slid it up. It's 5-inch 2-jaw gear puller, Ace Hardware, $5, part number 78886. A little bit, you can kind of push this down manually, but I just took this, tightened it with my finger. It gives me more room to work. It's way better than the PVC plastic thing. This is supposed to have S stamped in it, but I didn't find any. Here's the clip. I don't know if I mentioned, this is a 3/4 inch Schedule 40 PVC plug. I removed the metal spacer tube, then the washer, then the coil spring. Insert a 6mm Allen hex key. You'll hear a snap, and then it will unscrew easily by hand. If you're taking the forks out and you have a bench vise, that would be a good way to hold them in place while you put the 6mm Allen key in there and break it free. As an alternative method, you could do it while it's in the bike, and this is probably the best way, just put a drain pan underneath. Here I used a little flat bladed screwdriver to get this dust seal up, and that worked pretty well. Okay, it's very important at this point not to try to bang the forks apart, because after you take out the little 6mm Allen bolt, you've got to carefully pick this clip apart. If you've already tried to bang the tubes apart, what you may have to do is hammer the seal back in, because the seal will put pressure on the clip and cause you to bend it while you remove it. Okay, so with the outer dust extractor thing out, the clip out, now I just bang these. Wondering, do I have a straight rate stock spring or a progressive spring? I notice that the windings here are all the same, then they tighten up down here. Also, the mistake I made before is that I started to do the slide hammer effect, and I actually moved the seal up tighter against the clip, which made the clip more difficult to come out. I lowered the old BMW spring into this PVC tube, which was filled right to the top with water. As I slowly lowered the spring in, water spilled over, went down into here, and then I was able to get down and make some marks and measure. It's important, once you make the measurement, once you displace the water, that water doesn't run outside of the bottle, and then you need to remove the tube. One that uses progressive springs is playing around with the fluid and would like to know the difference of the two springs, and that's mainly why I did it. So what I seem to come up with for numbers, 55 cc's for the BMW OEM spring for displacement, and about 82 cc's for the progressive spring for the K75s. Not sure if we're going to disassemble and work on the sides separately, rebuilding one side, and then we'll work with the other fork. That's really important, because should you mess something up, you could get into a situation where you'll have to disassemble the other side to compare parts. So if the crack of light is in a different place, That tells you your tube is bent. I found at the post office they had large, flat glass tables. Hex screw on the bottom. It had no distortion, no marks whatsoever.